One, two, one, two. What up, everyone? Welcome to another episode of Jazzy Talk, where we talk to organizers around the country who are running Jazzy Ranking Events. And so tonight, I have not just a TO, but also a competitor, and not just any competitor, but the current first place point leader in ranking events. We have Troy from Southeast Throwdown on the show with us. And so, what up, Troy? Welcome to the show. Good to have you, man.
How's it going, Newton? Thanks for having me. Happy to be here. Looking forward to talk about some third strike.
So, when did Third Strike start for you, man? We're gonna jump right into it. No small talk. Like, where did this? How did this happen?
so, yeah, how I got started in third strike. 2001, 2002. I was playing Halo super competitively, and so that kind of got me into the whole competitive gaming. So one night, my oldest brother and two of his friends were actually playing Third Strike CVS2 at the house, getting ready for a tournament. And I kind of just invited myself to sit down and play. Uh, and I was pretty much hooked right from the start because the whole competitive drive in me from Halo, I was just like, yeah, I'm down to play any video game competitively. So they let me jump on the sticks. I went to a tournament the very next day with a couple hours of practice, could barely throw a fireball. Uh, got Ricky Ortiz, very first game. And of course, I got smoked, but I loved it. I loved the atmosphere. I loved seeing all these people getting together to play video games and how hype everyone was. Mainly, obviously, that was the Marvel 2 crew back in the day, but I was just hooked instantly. So that's how I got started. So I spent the first few years driving all over Florida with, like I said, my brother. He went by the Muffin Man back in the day. My buddy Nathan, who went by Silver Gear at the time, probably one of the best cues at the time. He wrote like uh, I don't even remember what the website was back in the day that they used, but he wrote like a tutorial on car throwing back before, YouTube and, back right in the beginning stages of Shuriken forums. He was like one of the first people to write anything about what car throwing was. And had another buddy, Matt. He played Hugo. So, yeah, I spent first from about 2001 to 2004, 2005. Uh, just basically traveling all over Florida, Miami, Orlando, Gainesville. We even had people come down to Port St. Lucie and play, which is where I was from, and tournaments at the house and everything. 30-man brackets at the house. um,
Was
but
Third
yeah,
Strike your first game?
Third Strike was my first fighting game.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah, uh, and pretty much up until 2005, it was like I played a little bit of CVS2 here and there because that's my brother liked CVS2, and it was kind of just a mutual agreement that if I played CVS2 with him, he would play Third Strike with me. That way, we both had something to practice, somebody to practice with. So yeah, and then I joined the military in 2006. Well, actually, from 2001 to 2004, I predominantly played Third Strike. Then we got really heavy into Guilty Gear, so I took a hiatus from Third Strike for quite a few years. Joined the military, kind of stopped playing everything altogether. And I think when I kind of got back into Third Strike was probably one of the first times you met me at NEC when I joined the New Blood
Oh
Battle
yeah, we
Royale.
have to we have to talk about that. Speaking of
So
lore, we have some of your compatriots in the chat. Troy, we got
yeah,
Nightline here. And so
yeah.
speaking of lore, so tell us a little bit more about that NEC event. because
So
it will go down in American Third Strike history as one of the more infamous
yeah.
events ever. And so yeah, so tell us a little bit
Um,
about how you decided to
yeah.
show up at NEC. Like, were you living in Florida at the time still?
So I was actually living in Virginia. I was stationed in Virginia
Okay.
still in the military. And like I said, probably 2005, I stopped
Yeah.
playing fighters pretty much. And I think that NEC wasn't until 2010-ish. And so I took about 5 years off of playing fighting games. But I found like two or three guys in Virginia to play Third Strike with, and it kind of got me back into it. And I actually Jibbo, well, most people know him as what does he go by now? I don't know.
Automatic.
Automatic, yeah. But Jibbo was actually stationed at the Air Force Base, like 5 minutes from my house, and I got to play with him a little bit, and it kind of got me back into Third Strike. And me and Nightline, who you see in the chat, uh, we both decided, let's go to NEC. So went to NEC, uh, entered Third Strike, and I saw the new Blood Battle Royale, and I was
All
like,
right.
man,
Okay. So just to give everyone some context, this was, I think, I'm trying to remember the year. It was so long ago, Troy. 2014, I think, maybe
yeah, it could have been even earlier.
2015, maybe 2015. One of those years, either
So
2014 or 2015. One of those years.
it was,
It
I
might have
honestly
been
think it was, yeah,
14.
I
14,
think it
right?
was, yeah, it was pretty early.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was
So,
20. So it was 2014, and and while I was with This Is Third Strike, we ran a fight club there, which was basically like just an exhibition of first to fives. And we also ran something called a New Blood Battle Royal. And so basically, it was winner stay on, and it was something that we started to try and get new players to play Third Strike. It was like, I think it was free. It was either free or it was like something really cheap, like $1, right? And
yeah,
so yeah, basically it was designed for beginners, like people who had never tried Third Strike before, just randoms. And so it was just like winner stays on, and the order is random, so it's like Royal Rumble. And so like, you could like have a match, you could get your number called early on and then get all the way to like the last match, and if the last person beats you, then they win. It's just kind of
yeah,
it's like absolutely not fair at all. This was not yeah, this was not an event that we did to try and like, as far as fairness. It was just something to get new people on and to get people to try Third Strike. And
yeah.
so this dude, so I
So,
mean, obviously we didn't really know you. No one, I
yeah,
think, in the Northeast, at least in New York, knew who you were. And so
yeah.
you entered the New Blood Battle Royal,
Yeah,
and you
it probably
hoodwinked
had
all of
been.
us, Troy.
Yeah, so Nightline's saying I was actually living in Florida at the time, so it had to be 2015 because that's when I got out
Okay.
of the military. So really, I was on like outside of a few months playing in Virginia, I was on like a 10-year hiatus almost.
No, that still doesn't count.
So,
You know
uh,
better, Troy.
I was like, I'm 10 years. It's been a while. So I
Definitely don't
entered.
qualify as a new blood. But hey, it's our fault. We didn't know who you were.
Yeah,
That's our
and the
bad.
funniest thing I found out. So I found out last year at the Jazzy finale, I found out that I heard this from Flannel Jack that I was one of the ones that sparked his lit that fire in him to get better at Third Strike because I
Mm.
actually eliminated him in that new Blood Battle Royale. He's like, you know what? And it was hilarious because, here we are 8 years later, and he's like, you beat me in the new Blood Battle Royale. And I was like, did He's like, yeah, man, after that, I wanted to get so much better.
You were one of his early villains.
Yeah. I was like, wow. But
Yes.
yeah, that kind of got me back in. That got me back into it, and I was living back in Florida, so I was back with all the guys I used to play with, and so I got back into it. And long story short, I found myself here in South Carolina, um, and while the scene in South Carolina isn't all that, as everyone knows, North Carolina's got a booming third strike scene, and that's thanks a lot to Flannel Jack. So luckily, I met Jimbo, who helps me. Well, honestly, he's kind of taking over Southeast Throwdown. He definitely does a lot more than I do, so I can't take the credit there. It was my idea to get it started. I came to him with the idea, like, hey, we should start this online tournament series. It was just originally supposed to be like for the local guys. Then I was like, let's just make it the whole Southeast. And then it just blew up because he's turned it into something amazing. All the credit to him with his streaming and his ability to just he's got the Discord all set up. I'm not good with all that technology like he is, but you know, shout outs to Jimbo. Southeast Throwdown wouldn't be what it is without him.
So when you're trying to grow a scene now, Troy, because you've been playing the game for a really long time, and so you've been here since the beginning, and now you came up with this idea for like an online tournament series.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like, talk to me a little bit about just like being an organizer for offline tournaments, because I'm sure you've run your share of offline tournaments, or
Yeah.
maybe helped out, and then now you're doing the online thing. So tell me a little bit about like doing both and how you feel about that.
Yeah. So when I was living in Port St. Lucie back in the early 2000s, playing with, Nightline and Back to Basics and my buddy Matt and all them. I held everything from house tournaments on paper bracket to anytime like a local land center would open up, I would be like the first guy in the door telling them, hey, I play fighting games competitively. I could get people in here if you're down to let us host a tournament here. Um, so I've held, and then even when I was in the military, stationed in Mississippi, I held a uh, offline tournament at a comic book store there. So I have a decent amount of offline tournament experience hosting events, and that's with everything from paper bracket to challenge to now we're using start.gg for everything. So and growing a scene, I don't know. It's always I don't know, kind of come natural to me I'm like a people person. Anyone that knows me could tell you, they met me randomly. I probably randomly just reached out
Although
to
you
them
didn't
one
say a
day.
word, you didn't say a word to any of us at NEC. You didn't say,
Yeah.
at least not
Uh,
after the New Blood Battle Royal. That's right.
yeah. But no, so I'm like always inviting people to my like people I don't know for anything, I just hey, you play video games. I have sessions at my house. Come play games, and it's just how I've always been and it's got me where I am and it's made how I've made most of the friends I have now. Um he said, as Nightline you can see in the chat, he says Troy legit be asking I was asking cashiers at Publix if they played just because they were you know, maybe somebody was walking around a store wearing a Street Fighter T-shirt, and hey,
Yeah.
you play Street Fighter? Uh, so I've always been one to try to grow the scene, and I think that stems from the fact that I came from a small scene, so I kind of had to do that to try to build up the scene.
I wanted to talk more about what you and Jimbo did with Southeast Throwdown. Maybe I just live under a rock or something, but is that something that local scenes do? Because you mentioned that you started out and your tournaments were restricted only to like the southeast, right? That's how the
Hmm.
tournaments worked at first.
Yeah.
And is that like something that you see a lot? Maybe people in the chat can chime in, like as far as local scenes holding online tournaments, but restricted just to the players that are in that region. Because, like, I understand you have tournaments that are open to everyone, right? But
Yes.
because it's an online tournament, like you could also have both, right? And so, like,
Yeah, yeah.
tell me a little bit about kind of why, like, at first you restricted the online tournaments to these to your immediate region.
Yeah. So, again, it all stems from being a Florida third strike player. So, again, a little history on Florida. We never really had any good third strike players. I mean, to be honest, no one was ever back in the early 2000s like, hey, that guy from Florida, he's coming to our tournament. He's got a good chance of winning. Uh, we really only had Nightline, who you see in the chat, was actually one of the best players in Florida for the longest time, and he was playing Q on Dreamcast controller. Uh, and then we had Alex Jabali, who constantly got top three, and anyone that knows Alex knows, yeah, he's not a third strike player, but he constantly won tournaments in Florida back in the day. Um, and then we had a Urian player out of Miami come around after a while named Zero G, who started winning for a few years. And then Everdread from New York had family in Florida, and he would come down on occasion, and he would just demolish everybody. And if anyone knows Everdread, uh, that should just tell you how strong Florida was. I mean, no, that's not a knock on Everdread. Great player, but when I say demolish, he pretty much wiped the floor with all of Florida every time he came down. So Florida was just never strong, and I always travel. Like I would travel to Final Round 7 was my first major. That was probably 2003, 2004. And you just never saw anyone from the Southeast really place too well. There was a Makoto player named Haunts who did fairly well at final round. But the Southeast has just always been the weakest region, to be honest. You have your New Yorks, you have your Texases, you have your Californias, and the Southeast was always just lacking. North Carolina had their scene, and they were definitely by far the strongest area. But so I just my idea when I started Southeast Throwdown was to make it region locked to the Southeast and take advantage of this tool that we have in Fight K2 that's super playable now and just try to make our scene, our region stronger to be able to compete with all the other regions in the US. Because, in my opinion, we're pretty far behind the rest of them. And since we're all spread out, we're not like a major city, we're not like a hub. We don't have that ability to meet up consistently and play offline. So I was just really just wanted to take advantage of Fightcade uh, and try to grow the Southeast to be a stronger region. That was my goal.
No, I think you're doing a really great job, you and Jimbo. Speaking of offline, like, has it had any kind of, because you were saying it's not like you guys can meet up all the time offline, but has the online stuff translated to offline at all? Like, since you started Southeast Throwdown online?
So I think in North Carolina, they've been pretty consistent offline, regardless of the online thing. So I wouldn't say it affected North Carolina too much because Flannel's been doing amazing up there, and they're pretty consistent already. But as far as South Carolina goes, I know we had nothing here, and now that I'm here and Jimbo and me and Jimbo are paired up, we're doing our offline stuff here. So it's definitely helped South Carolina. Um, and you even see a couple Florida tournaments popping up every once in a while now. And that's something you never really saw in Florida was third strike tournaments. Even though Florida's massive, again, it's hard for people to travel hours. Um, so, but I would say the best thing that starting Southeast Throwdown has done is had people from the Southeast that I didn't even know exist all come together in one place. Like Boa, I didn't know who Boa was until we started Southeast Throwdown, and here he is. He's giving Nika a run for his money, and he's a Southeastern player. But there's all kind of players in the Southeast that are super strong that I never knew existed till I started Southeast Throwdown. And now that we're all in one place in the same Discord and we can all get games together, honestly, I've seen people level up in the last year that I've started this Discord, faster than I ever seen people level up back in the day. Like people leveling up in months that would have normally taken 2, 3 years back before YouTube and online play. So
Yeah, definitely. A lot of games owe it to Fightcade. People always talk about just how easy it is to like boot up a game.
yeah,
There isn't a whole lot of it like even if you wanted to play say Third Strike on 30th like on Steam or something, it still will
yeah,
take longer to get a match
oh
probably
yeah,
than it would to get on Fightcade. So they're just
yeah. No, I
yeah.
used to be super against offline or online. I used to actually when I first met I don't know if anyone, back to basics, George. First time I met him, he used to tell me how Xbox Live had an online scene. And I was just like, dude, you're crazy. You're never gonna catch me on there. And for the most part, I never did hop on there. But I mean, look what that led to, because to my understanding, that's where people like Nika and them, all used to play, and Sandy Bags.
That's what I was going to say. Like I was like, I hope we. I was like, I just realized we hadn't talked about Sandy.
Yeah,
Uh, yeah, and so Sandy was like the king
yeah,
of Xbox 360.
yeah.
And
Everyone knows how strong he is, and I mean, if that goes to show you, online is definitely a great enough tool for you to level up, because all the years I went to tournaments in Florida, decades I went to tournaments in Florida, you never seen Sandy Bags at an offline event. So he was leveling up somehow, and it was Xbox Online apparently. So
yeah. And correct me if I'm wrong, but Sandy uh competed in the first ever Jazzy Auto Qualifier at TFC 2019.
yes, I think that is the first event offline I seen him at.
Yeah.
Again, I don't know if that was when I was following Third Strike as much, but that was the first one I seen him at, and I think I've only seen him at one since then, maybe two,
Yeah.
like a CEO. So I mean, that man grinds online, and he's an amazing player. So online is definitely a great tool to have.
Yeah. Let's talk a little bit more about Jazzy. You went to the finale last year. Yeah, tell me what you thought, man.
Oh, I thought it was amazing. I love the grassroots feel of it. Not just because it's a 20-year-old game everyone's playing, but just the atmosphere, arcade. The bar was a plus for me if you like to indulge. Um, but I don't know. Majors nowadays for other newer fighting games are cool. They're fun. You get to see a lot of cool things, but I don't know. Nothing beats the grassroots feel of the Jazzy finale had. Um, and it's just everyone's so passionate about Third Strike. You don't really see that with every new fighting game. I'd say Marvel players throughout the generations have always been passionate about Marvel, but you don't really see that same level of passion for other games that you do for Third Strike. And But yeah, no, I recommend. I'm gonna be back this year, regardless if I qualify with points or not. I'm gonna be there, so yeah, I wouldn't miss it.
So let's talk about your grind recently. Like I mentioned, your first place in Jazzy offline ranking events with Flannel Jack. Or I think actually, let me see. No, Flannel Jack actually, as of last weekend, Flannel Jack has overtaken you for first place.
Yeah, yeah,
And
he overtook
yeah,
me.
and so now you are in second place.
So yeah, I didn't really go into this season um, with the expectation to be anywhere close to being in the top five or wanting to qualify with a qualifying spot. Like I said, I planned at the beginning of the season to be at the finale regardless. So I've just been fortunate enough that my wife has been letting me go to as many tournaments as I've been going to lately. Whether or not I can keep it up through the whole season and make it in with points, that would be cool. But if not, I'll be there anyway.
Yeah, this leaderboard is starting to get tight,
Yeah,
and we
for
still have
sure.
a lot of big events coming up. And speaking of which, busy third strike again for North Carolina. We also have some other events scheduled, I believe, in Portland. Arcade in DFW, Texas, is running another ranking event this weekend. We're going to have the Brooklyn Jazzy ranking event at Brooklyn Games on Friday. But
Yeah.
let's talk a little bit about these events that are coming up in North Carolina. I know you and Jim are holding it down for South Carolina, but obviously it's all kind of a big circuit here. You've been
Yeah.
traveling to each other's tournaments, and so let's talk a little bit about the 10 Frame Fridays 19. And so, do you have anything that you wanted to add about this event in
So 10
Greensboro?
frame Friday. Yeah, I
Yeah.
think so me and Jimbo went to, I don't know if it was the last one
Uh-huh.
or the one 2 weeks ago, but we did make the drive up. That's about a 4 hour drive for us, but
Hmm.
we made the drive up. We went. They have a nice little venue. It's primarily, I believe, they had like Tekken, Street Fighter 6, and Street Fighter 3, maybe some other games, but they had a pretty strong little scene up there. Um, Obviously, everyone, as you can see with the leaderboards, Flannel's leading the pack. A lot of the old North Carolina players aren't as active as they used to be. But so if I had to guess, Flannel's probably going to be taking that one and making the gap even bigger.
Yeah.
And then there's one on Saturday, I believe, that is Tournament of Thrones,
Yes, Tournament of Thrones.
which is again 4 hours for me. Um, and actually, I went to the last one of those as well, and they had a really strong Alex player show up. Saisu, I think is what
Mm-hmm.
his name was. Old school player, apparently. Been playing in North Carolina for a long time. And hopefully he plans to attend again because him and Flannel had a really good set at the last one. And even if I don't make it, I'll be tuned in and I'd love to see them go at it again.
So let's talk more about Southeast Throwdown. You're one of the streamers who has agreed to help us out with Jazzy Online this season, and so I know we have Stupid Strike coming up on Friday, but we do have your next Jazzy Online event coming up on the 28th. Run the Set Jazzy Online Edition number 2. We have a question in the
Yeah.
chat. How many people can
Oh,
qualify on the online ranking events? Top 2, Miguru-san.
yes.
And so, yeah, tell us a little bit about this second Jazzy Online event, and what were your thoughts on the first one?
So the first one was a blast. I loved seeing all the people enter. Man, it was a little, I told Jimbo we were gonna have 50 plus people. He didn't believe me, but we hit it. And yeah, man, it was honestly behind the scenes. Me and Jimbo were stressing a little bit, and we both were talking about how we felt like, we could have done better. But after the event, everyone said they had a great time and it ran smooth. So we're
You
looking to
guys, yeah.
repeat, man. And I know Jimbo's up for it. So am I. Anytime Jazzy reaches out and needs somebody to fill in for an online event, uh, we're gonna be here for it. So we're looking forward to it. Um, Looking forward to getting some good games in. I was hoping to see Boa, in some of these last couple online ones, but I think he's been taking a little break, which I understand. But yeah, I like to see, Boa representing the Southeast. It's always fun seeing him.
Yeah, Run the Set Jazzy Online Edition number 2, February 28th. That is a Wednesday. That is, and of course, that's the day that Run the Set usually streams, Wednesdays. And so, yeah, shout outs to Jimbo and you too, Troy, for holding it down for the Southeast online Third Strike scene. And yeah, like we were talking about how you started out as region locked, and now you've expanded it. And so, what are your? Not sure if you can share anything, but like, do you have any like ideas, or you had mentioned that you were going to be handing a lot of the reins to Jimbo, but tell me a little bit about your
Yeah.
plans as far as Southeast Throwdown goes.
So we plan on eventually expanding to offline Southeast Throwdown events here soon. Actually, probably next month we're gonna have one.
Mm.
I want to say Jimbo is actually in
You
the
know, you should
process
you
of
should run a
working.
you should run a new blood battle royal.
I,
You're gonna have
you
to
know
call it
what?
something else though,
Yeah,
but you're gonna have to the Troy Invitational or something.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, no. So I know me and Jimbo have talked quite a bit about what we plan on doing in the future, and the offline is the way we're gonna go. Obviously, we're gonna have to start small, but luckily for us, we have the arcade, the local arcade here, Retro Rebs, and that's where we're gonna start doing our offline events at. I think he plans on moving locations, but we have a backup if that interferes with our offline plans until he opens back up in his new location. So be on the lookout for Charleston, South Carolina offline Third Strike events ramping up.
What was the venue you mentioned?
Retro Revs, Japanese arcade. It's currently in Monk's Corner, South Carolina. But he's going to be moving closer to Charleston, I believe, probably like North Charleston or Somerville, a little closer, more populated, more popular area.
Awesome. Well, that sounds really exciting. Starting online, branching off to offline, and your perspective is really cool, Troy, because you started in the scene back when around the time, well, actually before I did, and so you've been running these online tournaments. Like, do you think that'll make you feel a little bit more confident going into the offline tournaments?
Yeah, I think the online stuff, especially with the number of entrants you can get in these online events, as you can see, these Jazzy online events have been getting 50 plus people.
Mhm.
So, and they're pretty high speed, everyone being in a chat reporting scores. It's actually a little easier offline, in my opinion, because they kind of
Online
have
or
to
offline? What's easier?
offline running events. I feel is easier
Hmm.
because people have to wait their turn to come and speak to you to report their scores one at a time. Whereas online, you're reading a chat and everyone's just like,
Yeah.
report, 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 and you have to just scroll through
Hmm.
and keep track. Because I've actually ran multiple side tournaments at CEO. Being as I lived in Florida, I've been to multiple CEOs, and before CEO was doing official Third Strike side tournaments, it was kind of just a community ran thing. And I've held, I've got, I think I did a 60 something man bracket one year on a paper bracket at a CEO. Um, so yeah, I actually think online is a little tougher. Trying to get everyone in the lobby and read through the chat and tell everyone who's up on stream. It's easier to just shout into a large group of people standing around you, and so
How about this, Troy? We will have you back after you run your first offline Southeast Throwdown tournament, and then we'll see what you have to say on this matter of which is more difficult to run online versus offline. Surely both present their own unique logistical challenges.
yeah, yeah. No, I think from just running the tournament, I guess more not running the tournament, running the bracket, I guess I could say is
Hmm.
easier offline. I know the logistics of it. I was doing it at CEO where they already had an arcade room set up and cabinets laid out for you, and all I had to do was get a piece of paper, make a bracket, take names, and run a tournament. So that portion's easy. The logistics of it, though, yeah, I could see that getting. That's the difficult part.
But a part of why you think it's easy is because you've been in the scene so long. Like, it's
Yeah.
like if someone just came up to you and go, "Hey, run this." run this bracket right now. Like it would just be like second nature to you.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
So yeah, it's just that muscle memory. So yeah, wanted to let everyone know if you have any questions in the chat, you can go ahead and drop them now, and then we can get to them. And so again, in the meantime, Troy, just wanted to again talk a little bit more about the Jazzy finale. And so the Jazzy finale, like you said, you were there last year. What were some of the what were some of your favorite things about the finale? Like, I know you talked about the atmosphere and but were like there's certain events, certain things that you
Yeah.
really enjoyed.
Um, I don't think I'm alone when I say team events are my favorite. So
Yeah,
having the 5v5,
dude, we really want to like make the 5v5 like really hype, but
yeah,
I don't know. Like, I feel like like I always like saw the 5v5 at the finale as like an opportunity to have like a taste of Coop
yeah, yeah,
because
for sure.
when I went to Coop, it was by far my favorite tournament experience ever. And
Yeah,
so it would be cool to try and give players over here just a preview of what it's like to compete that way.
yeah,
And I don't know, like trying to figure out ways to make the team tournament hype, trying to make it matter. Not that it
yeah,
doesn't matter. I mean, there was some really sick matches
yeah,
and some really sick sets. And then we ended the finale with the 3v3, the 3v3 side
yes,
event, the random 3v3
yeah,
side event. So,
yeah. You can't ever have too many team events, because unless you're like super competitive
yeah.
and like if you're there to win it, the 1v1 tournament, if you're not one of those guys, I feel like everyone prefers the team events. Because I know me personally, I've been playing the game for so long now. My individual success doesn't matter as much as I'll always have more fun seeing my friends that I went to events with do well over myself winning. Like,
Mhm.
I don't know, that's just me. I know there's people out there that are like cutthroat. They want to win every event, and more power to you if you have that competitive drive still. But I've always preferred seeing my friends do well in tournament over myself. So I think that's why I prefer the team event, because just watching your friends, you know, win is there's nothing better than that to me. So
Yeah, as many stories as I've heard from people in the FGC, there are so many parallels, and it's like you always have like that small core group of friends that you started playing a game with. Like in my case, I had a kind of a small group at first from where I went to school, and then that's when I that we discovered FFA, Family Fun Together, and that's kind of how that started. And so like you had your group of friends from Florida, and like I always thought like the teams at the finale would be a great time to like reunite, to like get the band back together at least once a year and to kind of play Third Strike as a team. Because usually
yeah,
like those groups start out like that size, right? Like 4 or 5
yes,
people.
yes,
And so I always thought it would be a cool thing for people to use the teams in the finale as a
yeah.
opportunity to get back together with the friends that you learned to play the game with.
Yeah, no, for sure. I think you guys have a great format going with the 5v5. You can pick your own team, do the 5v5, get you warmed up for the last chance qualifier, and then the finale, and then I think the random select 3v3 is awesome because then you get, the I guess the lesser skilled players, you could say, have a chance of winning something because they could get teamed up with whoever, Yuki or Nika or you, or so I think the format you guys had last year was amazing with all the different events. A little bit of something for everybody.
So Troy, you're like a sports guy, right?
Yes.
So one idea that I had bouncing around, as far as the team goes, is like, do you think a draft would work? Because I know you're like a sports guy, but like, do you think a draft would work? Like, say for example, like you could sign up to be in the draft pool. Like, if you know you're going to the finale, you put yourself in the draft pool. Maybe get people who are captains. I mean, they would
Yes.
have to
So
commit to going to the finale. I don't know. Like,
yeah, that's
yeah,
funny you mentioned that because after season one of Southeast Throwdown,
uh huh.
we did like 6 months of every Wednesday event, and then at the end, because I kept track with points of all the placings. At the end, we selected a few captains from the high-ranking players, and we did a draft actually,
Okay.
where you selected players, and all we had was positive feedback from it.
Uh,
Everyone wanted to do it again. So yeah, I
yeah.
certainly think a draft would work.
Yeah. And
And
this would address the issue of players not having teams.
hmm
They would just be thrown into the draft pool,
yes, for sure.
and then we would
Yeah,
have captains. You could sign up as captains. But imagine a
yeah,
draft for Jazzy teams at the finale this year. That would be
yeah. That
pretty
would.
hype.
Yeah, you could.
But we would need captains to commit, though.
Yeah, have people sign up as captains. Um, well, so full transparency, in my opinion, you can't really use the Jazzy leaderboard as a selection for captains because let's be honest, I'm not one of the top 5 players in America. So that's I couldn't really be a captain if you wanted to
Well, you
make the
could be
teams as even as possible.
you could do like the LeBron, method, right? You're like you're like the captain, the GM, the coach. You're just kind of like a all-purpose kind of.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're the decision maker on the team.
Yeah, yeah.
You're the GM, and imagine if you could do trades during the season. That would be like, and then
Now
like
we're
based on how like players are playing, like on online events and the ranking events.
yeah.
Imagine you could do trades.
Yeah. That would be sick. That would take some
Yeah,
planning, but that would
yeah,
definitely be hype.
yeah. But yeah, like as far as just like a basic draft, you could just have a Google sign up, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
for sure.
or not even that. Like when people sign up for Start GG, you just have people sign up as individuals for teams, and then
Yeah.
there's your draft pool, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just wanted to get your thoughts on that because I know you're a big sports guy. And so before we get out of here, though, I did want to talk about the next Jazzy Auto Qualifier that's on the slate for season 5, and that is, of course, the Jazzy Auto Qualifier out in Tempe, Arizona. Jazzy Cactus. Not sure if you caught the footage of the last one, Troy, but Jazzy Cactus League last year was an amazing event. The energy in the Third Strike AZ scene right now is just, off the charts. They're really a testament to, again, just, sticking with it, trying to be consistent.
Yeah.
And, now they're, one of the hotter Third Strike scenes in America. And so definitely look out for the players coming out of that region. And so, yeah, let's go ahead and talk a little bit about the Jazzy Auto Qualifier in Temp, not the weekend after next.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so it's going to
I've
be
been liking
at
what I've been seeing out there in Arizona. They're kind
yeah,
of building what I want to build down here in the Southeast. North Carolina's already kind of,
uh-huh,
they had it. Then I feel like they kind of lost it with a lot of their older players dropping off, and Flannel's been doing a great job building it back up.
mhm.
And I'm kind of, you know, I'm here to help Flannel if he needs it. We can kind of combine the Carolinas and try to turn our scene into, something like they got going on in Arizona right now. So shout outs to Arizona and all the things they're doing over there.
It's an amazing venue. It's at the Gaming Zone location in Temp. It's like one part video game store, one part game room, arcade cabs. Shout outs to Bling and BMXer for agreeing to lend their cabs once again for the event. Jizza in the chat, the AZ Cactus League TO, the man with the plan, pulling all the strings. Appreciate you, Jizza, for holding it down for Third Strike and Jazzy over in Temp. Of course, we got Rennick there. We got Ray Ramos. Just a host of other really talented Third Strike players out in Arizona. And so I definitely encourage you, if you're in the the Phoenix area. Hopefully players from Tucson come out again. And so, yeah, definitely looking forward to the Jazzy Auto Qualifier at the TGZ in Temp, Arizona. And also, we are going to have some food for the entrance. We're going to have some barbecue, drinks. It's going to be a good time. And so definitely come out, play some Third Strike, whether you're a vet or, you just heard that Evo was running Third Strike or something and you're curious. Come to come to the gaming zone. Check out Third Strike. And yeah, it's a good game, right?
Yeah, definitely play Third Strike. That's why it's back at Evo, right? You know.
Yeah, it is. And so
But
yeah. But yeah, I appreciate the time again, Troy, on Jazzy Talk. And
no problem.
so yeah, good luck with the rest of the season, both as a competitor and as a TO. You're welcome back anytime, especially after you and Jimbo run your first offline Southeast Throwdown event.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I appreciate you having me. I look forward to, being back. And this was the super short version of the history. If
Oh no.
you're probably lucky me and Nightline weren't on here together, because
Uh,
we probably would have been on here for hours talking about all
yeah.
the
Yeah.
things we experienced.
Well, I have my separate
Actually,
Mutant Experience podcast. This is really more so for just talking about Jazzy and stuff. But
yeah.
I don't think you've come on to my. No, you have. Did you?
No,
Did you
we
know?
actually, I think me and Nightline talked to you one time about actually
Yeah.
going on it
Okay.
together, and
Oh yeah, that's right. Okay, so yeah, so we definitely got to make that happen so we can get the definitive history of Florida Third Strike.
yeah, we definitely got to do that.
But yeah, in the meantime, again, this weekend, check out all the Third Strike events. Check out all the Jazzy events. If you're interested in running your own ranking event, head on to jazzycircuit.org and hit us up on Discord. And so yeah, thanks for tuning in, guys, and I'll see you all next time.
All right, good night.